Okay, Scott, biggest thing after a trade, right? Finding living arrangements. How crazy is the process of just finding a home after you get traded?
Yeah, still kind of going through that, I guess, a little bit. I'm in the hotel right now here in New York, and might just do that the rest of the time. Honestly, we don't have too much longer at home during the regular season, so probably just do that for the time being. Makes it a little easier than trying to find an apartment for 2 or 3 months. So just going through that, yeah. But yeah, definitely a whirlwind for as far as that goes.
Now, have you thought about, or had you thought about when you were traded? Oh, where do I want to live? Do I want to live right in Manhattan? Do I want to live outside the city? Like, what did you assess that pretty quickly, and where'd you land on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that might be like a conversation for next year, as far as like
Yeah.
have some time to look through it. But I've definitely been looking around, as far as like, asking around where guys live, and some guys live north of the stadium, some guys live in New Jersey, some guys live in the city. So just kind of getting different viewpoints. But yeah, I mean, obviously plenty of options here, and looking forward to kind of settle into a place next year maybe.
I've done both, and there's value in both. I lived in the city
Yeah.
for 13 years, loved it, loved every second of it. Now I'm in the burbs, and I love that too, man. It kind of depends what you're looking for. Do you
Yeah.
want to feel that energy in action on a daily basis, or do you kind of want that respite away from it? But the good news is it's all within your reach and all viable for still getting to the stadium. So there are options for you.
Good to know. Good to know.
So Scott, you get traded, and obviously at the deadline, um, some people know, yeah, like I'm probably going to be traded, and some people have no idea. Other people think it could happen. The Cubs were in a position to sell, right, with where they're at this season. But how much had you heard your name brought up in the lead up to the trade deadline?
Not much, really. It was pretty shocking to get traded. I think honestly that might have been the biggest shocking. It wasn't, like with other people, I guess. So it's just kind of took me uh, you know kind of off guard a little bit when our GM told me. But I kind of had to adjust pretty quickly and get here. But yeah, it was a little shocking for sure to kind of hear my name get floated in trade rumors and then get traded. So
What is it? Is it exciting when you know you're going to a contender, or is it still? Is there still a feeling of like, oh, this is my team. I don't want to get traded.
yeah, I think there's definitely it was a bittersweet moment. That was the
Yeah.
organization that drafted me, and kind of gave me a chance to pitch in the big leagues, and a lot of my best friends were there. But on the same side of that, get to pitch, get to come to the New York Yankees. I mean, it's not many better situations than this in baseball. So definitely really honored to be able to come here. That they thought so much of me to bring me here, and have me try to compete for another World Series ring. And I think like I said, like saying bye to those guys was obviously tough, but getting here and getting to know these guys has been great so far, and I'm excited to kind of finish the rest of the season and see what happens. But yeah, I mean, kind of a mixture of both, I guess, would be the easiest answer.
There's so many interesting aspects of your story, and some of our audience is going to be familiar, and many of them are not, and want to dive into a lot of the elements of that. But just to stick with just some of the particulars before we get into that, of just around being traded, something, I mean, for all my conversations that I've had with pitchers and catchers in my life, I don't know that I've ever just asked right after a trade, what is the process like for getting on the same page with your new catchers, with your new pitching staff, with kind of what the organization believes philosophically? What's that onboarding process like for you?
Yeah, that was honestly really, really impressive the way they handled it. Matt Blake was awesome as far as introducing himself and kind of getting me on the same page really quick with everybody. And Higgy and Trevi have been awesome to work with so far. I feel like they've already kind of learned me as a pitcher and learned my strengths so far. I've only thrown like 6 times or so. But yeah, we had kind of a meeting as far as like what my strengths were, what they thought I did best from this year as far as their numbers and everything, and kind of just went over that. So I felt like I got up to speed as much as I could as quickly as possible. And obviously it takes some time, certain things change throughout the year where you're throwing a pitch differently, and, the catcher sees something they want to work on, or the pitching coach sees something they want to work on or add in. So I think that's just normal baseball. But as far as the getting traded over here and kind of having them get me up to speed as quick as possible, they did a great job with that. And I feel really comfortable throwing it. I've thrown to Trevi so far, but even Higgy, that those guys game plan so well, and they really take pride in what they're doing behind the plate. So really excited to keep working with them.
When they say, here's what you do well, Scott, are you looking at it and are they saying like, we love this pitch shape, or like, here's your spin rate on this, or is it, here's the, OPS against this pitch? Like what kind of analytics are you being, given as they're kind of breaking down why they like whatever, or maybe it's beyond analytics?
Yeah, I think more so. I think it's at this point of the season, it's about what's getting guys out. Obviously, we want to stay on top of everything analytically, and they have a great staff here in place to do that. Is if a pitch kind of gets out of whack, but I think when we had our initial meeting and kind of through the conversations, like, hey, what works most effectively for you for getting X type of hitter out, or what do you use to get this type of lefty out, or so things like that is kind of the conversation, but. All those things play into it. So I think really, I got traded here, and they kind of wanted to keep me doing what I was doing for the most part in Chicago, and kind of use my strengths, like I said, and kind of go and attack guys. So like I said, the game planning from Trevi and Higgy has been amazing. That there's not a hitter in the lineup that they don't know everything about. So they're really, really good and on top of it. So just kind of trusting that back there, and makes me feel confident in whatever pitch I'm throwing.
Before we dive into the origin story of how Scott Effross became the pitcher we see today, let's start with what has been the highlight of your, Yankee tenure thus far. And it's a brief tenure, but no doubt getting that save at Fenway Park, you guys in desperate need of a win. When now we know earlier in the year, Aroldis Chapman's the closer. Obviously you weren't here yet, but and he's been a closer for more than a decade now, right? Then Clay Holmes, an all-star, pitching lights out. He, becomes a closer. So it wouldn't seem that role would be up for grabs at any point. But right now it is, with the way Clay's struggled lately, and Aroldis kind of been used in sort of a, fireman role right now at any point. And you get the call to close that game against the Red Sox. What are the nerves like, the anticipation like for that moment?
Yeah, it was definitely a pretty surreal moment. I don't think I could kind of imagine at the beginning of the season, or even when I got traded. Like, obviously I knew that I was getting traded here to do a job and kind of compete in those games, but until you actually do it and kind of get out there in it, it kind of you don't know how to react to it. So felt relatively calm for the most part as far as my nerves, but really, like you said, we needed a win. I wanted to go out there and kind of do my job and end the ball game. So it was a pretty exciting moment. I definitely would have to say that that's probably the top one so far in the last 10 days or so that I've been a Yankee. But going back to the catchers, like that's a moment where you kind of got to trust the catcher and trust your defense to make plays behind you. And Trevi made a great play coming up, throwing the ball to second base in that inning, so that kind of helped me out. But really, really exciting moment to kind of be able to close that out and get us a win.
When you're feeling those nerves, what do you do to try and calm yourself? What are your tactics to try and, just get back to trying to execute a pitch?
Yeah, I think being able to kind of separate from the mound for just a second and kind of taking your time, at the end of the day, you have the ball in your hands, so you kind of control the game pace. So if you need an extra second, taking an extra second there. But for me, I think, trying to make everything as as simple as possible, I think is kind of what I would like to do. And it's hard sometimes, but I think, trying to just focus on one pitch at a time and kind of have that thought process kind of cleans up everything else that's kind of going on around you.
When you are coming into a game, not just, let's say, the save situation at Fenway, which was particularly unique, and you did such a wonderful job to lock down that save and with men on base against, the heart of the order as well. But when you're just coming into a game for the Yankees and it's early on in your tenure, are you feeling the weight of, wow, like, this is the Yankees, people pay attention, people care? Like, does that seep in at all, or is that something you have to like kind of actively engage against to focus back on the mound? How do you deal with that, Scott?
Yeah, I think there's certainly an aspect of, obviously it's, probably the biggest fan base in the sport. So there's definitely an aspect of that. But I think for me right now, it's new team, new teammates, and new staff. I want to go out there and kind of do it for them, and kind of have them almost like earn the respect of the clubhouse a little bit, and kind of go out there and compete for them. So I think it's more so that I think it's it's a great team. Everyone's been so welcoming to me here, and I think just having me settle in with them has been huge. So really just trying to go out and compete for them, I think, is the bigger thing for me that I'm focusing on. And I think for that, it kind of goes back to, making things simple and not focusing on everything that's going on outside, just kind of focusing on the diamond, focusing on one pitch at a time. I know it's cliche, but really just kind of doing my best to keep things as simple as possible. I know it's a lot going on for sure. But it's, it's been fun so far. And like I said, the clubhouse has been awesome. The team's been amazing to kind of welcome me in so far. And I feel like I'm definitely, learning everybody and enjoying it so far.
When you are in the minor leagues, now we will go back to the origin and we'll go beyond even this, but let's start with the baseball aspect of it. You're in the minors and, things are going okay, right? Your numbers have been all right in the minors thus far. You have a great career at Indiana in college. You're in the minors. You're pitching in high A. You're pitching to an ERA in the low threes, which is obviously very solid. Then in Double A in 2018, the results aren't quite there, right? And at what point does Ron Vallone suggest to you, who Yankees fans are familiar with, at what point does he suggest to you, hey, maybe you should try dropping down?
Yeah, I mean, anytime I get a chance to talk about RV, I'll take it. That kind of puts a smile on my face just seeing him. So, so it was 2019. Like you said, I was kind of just an up and down kind of reliever in the Cubs organization. Double A was my second year in Double A at the time, and it was right before the All-Star break. Double A, we were at home in Tennessee, Knoxville, Tennessee, and he came up to me and said, like, hey, let's see, drop down, just throw a couple. I'm like, I don't really know what this means, but okay. So I'm listen to anything he'd have to say. And he told me, like, the organization approached me about, asking you to drop down. Would you be willing to listen? I'm like, yeah, I really hadn't thought about it, but kind of wanted to know the reasoning behind it. And we had some discussions about what they thought and how it could benefit from changing my arm action, giving me more deception, and give me a different look that they really didn't have at the time in the minor leagues. So I thought about it for a little bit, and after about a week or so, talked to my family and my wife and everything, decided to let's go for it. Let's see what happens. And I think at that point, really kind of had to make that choice, I guess, to stay in the organization, I guess. But I went down to Arizona for about 2 months to kind of work on my arm slot and kind of slowly get to a slot that felt comfortable. We kind of worked on a couple of different things. Our rehab pitching coach, Josh Side, who was there at the time, was my guy every day down there, and he's still there as the rehab guy. And he we kind of worked to get to a slot that felt comfortable and maximize my velo, my pitch shapes and everything. And just throwing a lot of bullpens, a lot of games to catch, everything. So got comfortable where I was like, okay, we can compete with this. So I started doing a lot of VPs down there, started doing some some of the AZL games down there at the complex. And then for the last month in 2019, I went out to Myrtle Beach, was our high affiliate there. So I went there for the last month and threw pretty well. Good experience for like 15 innings or so. And then finished in the fall league actually that year. So I got an extra like 15 innings, which was huge to kind of compete against really good talent at that time and kind of, solidify myself with the motion. So I'm like, okay, I feel like this is fairly comfortable. 2020 comes along, didn't get to play. So I was at home, live in Pittsburgh, and we had a really great group of a lot of other pro guys and college guys who weren't playing as well. So we kind of ran some live BPs on some fields there during the summer, and were able to was able to kind of work on my mechanics without like the pressure of competing at that time. So I credit a lot to that year. We were constant communication with Zooms and like, from the Cubs organization as far as like what they want from me and everything with this. So really, I thought that year was kind of crucial for me as far as, my development of my mechanics with that. So when I came into 2021, I felt really comfortable with my mechanics. Started a minor league camp, went to AA for the first month, and then AAA for 3 months, and then got called up at the end of August last year. So right around this time last year for my debut. So it's been a whirlwind. It's been kind of a long 3 years, but also a short 3 years, I guess, since I switched. But, when everybody asks me about this, I always say how incredibly grateful I am for RV, for the Cubs, organization to kind of give me that second chance to become a new pitcher and give me a chance to pitch in the big leagues. They had a lot of faith in me as a person to let me do that. So I'm always incredibly grateful for that.
Was there anything about your profile in particular that they mentioned, Scott, to say, hey, here's why we think you could drop down and have success, throwing sidearm and have success?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was I was already like a lower 3/4 pitcher. I wasn't like completely over the top. So it was a huge drastic change. A lot of it was really just like a hip hinge, I think was the biggest thing. So I think that was probably the biggest thing. In my pitch shapes at the time were kind of profiled as like what a sidearm guy would traditionally throw. So that, and I think the ability to bounce back quickly that I showed in the minors, I think they kind of valued, and they trusted me to do it, and they gave me all the resources to do it well and, do it the right way. And, like I said, really, really grateful for them to kind of give me that second chance.
So when you're doing it in 2019, though, you are literally, while the minor league season's going on, you're down in Arizona just working on mechanics, correct?
Yeah. I mean, that was pretty much it.
I mean, is that just because you're a competitor, right? Like you're used to playing games at this time of year. How disorienting was that to know, like, wait, there's games going on that I could be competing in, but instead I'm throwing bullpens down here, and it's not because I'm hurt. I'm healthy, but I'm just down here working on things.
Yeah, I think, I actually, hadn't thought about that too much, but kind of the first thing that comes to mind with that is I think there was probably a moment early on in it, like that I thought like, like this would love to be competing. But like early on in the process, once I started to see how my pitches were changing and how I felt like they were coming out of my hand, I was like, okay, I think this might work. So like kind of my entire intention switched to, making this work, fully without, thinking of whatever happened in the past. So, I think there was definitely like an aspect of like a moment where I'm like, okay, like I think I could have a chance at doing this. So, might as well go in with both feet and kind of attack it as much as I could.
Well, clearly worked out. So I have to ask, from the conversations with the family, with the wife, who was the biggest proponent of, yes, do this, drop down, Scott?
Probably my wife, honestly. She's
go,
like,
wifey. She nailed it.
Yeah. She's like, I was like kind of like unsure about it and everything. She's like, you're going to go and do it. And like, just like give it your all, and whatever happens. And I was like, all right, like I trust you. No reason not to. So, there was, I think those conversations kind of, and like a lot of other guys, like teammates that I've had in the past, were kind of like, this is a great opportunity to go and do something new and kind of, recreate yourself a little bit. So, I think just kind of having those conversations kind of pushed me a little bit forward in the right direction.
And your wife is your high school sweetheart, right?
Yeah. We went to high school together. Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many, and I'm married as well. Didn't meet my wife in high school, but anyone in this business can, I think, or in sports, like you really have a unique appreciation for that relationship because, you know, everything about it is weird and off schedule compared to most people in our lives, right? Like it's weekends, it's nights, it's holidays, it's all of those things. And in your case, for a minor league baseball player, like that is a particularly taxing journey in a way that I'll never know, that you obviously know very intimately, you know. So I imagine for her, having been with you through the journey, seeing you go sidearm and work out, now seeing you have major league success, that's got to be amazing for her and then for you as a team, right?
Yeah, definitely. No, I certainly couldn't do any of this without her support. You know, she's coming to the games this weekend, so first time she gets to see me in a Yankee uniform.
Nice.
So that'll be a pretty special moment. So I'm really excited for that. And I think you nailed it as far as like, you know, it's definitely a long journey. It took me, you know, about 7 years to get to the major leagues. And, you know, now that we've kind of, you know, gotten here, you know, I've had success so far and, you know, want to continue that. But I think, you know, kind of just appreciating the journey and kind of trying to do the best we can to kind of soak in the moments and you know, take advantage of our time here. So but yeah, it's definitely, you know, it's been a wild wild couple weeks, so we're starting to settle in a little bit. But yeah, it's, you know, it's definitely exciting and really grateful to have her with me for all of it.
Were there any points during the 7 years that you thought like, or that you seriously thought about hanging it up, trying something else, thinking, okay, I took this journey as far as I can take it and now it's time to move on?
Not seriously. You know, obviously those thoughts come in your head and, you know, they happen to every ball player as far as that goes when you're doing that. But, you know, I don't think I ever got to that moment. And I think, when I did get the chance to kind of switch to sidearm, it almost gave me like a new life. And looking back on that time, there might've been some moments in there that, you know, maybe that decision would have crept in and more prominently, or that thought process might have crept into my head a little bit more prominently as far as like switching careers. And, you know, but like I said, just getting that kind of second chance to become a completely new pitcher was, you know, best thing that happened in my baseball career for sure. And, you know, really kind of still learning the process of being, you know, major leaguer and everything, and still kind of go through all that process. So, you know, really just trying to, you know, really do my best to kind of soak in each day and kind of learn and do my best to, you know, keep moving forward.
You know, when you're, you know, trying something new like this, I'd imagine that there might be different benchmarks that reinforce, oh, this can work, right? Maybe it's a reaction of hitters on a given day. Maybe it's a certain team. Maybe it's a certain hitter. Is there a moment or two where you can think of in that journey where you were like, oh, like this isn't just going to work for me. Like I'm going to be able to have success getting big league hitters out throwing sidearm.
Yeah. You know, there's a lot of obviously really cool moments along the way so far. And I think with any pitcher, you just kind of, you know, nothing's guaranteed. So obviously you just want to, you know, keep attacking each hitter, like, you know, like it's your first, like it's your last. So, I mean, like, I think from that aspect, you know, try to do my best of staying in the moment and you know, really focusing on the task at hand. But obviously there's been some cool outings, some really good hitters that I've been lucky enough to face and have success against. And, you know, it gives you confidence moving forward. You know, every kind of good outing, you kind of stack on top of each other, and it kind of gives you confidence moving forward. And, you know, being traded here and getting out there on the mound already and having a couple outings where they went well and kind of gives you a little extra boost as far as like your next one. And so you try to do your best to stack those on top of each other as much as possible and kind of, you know, just keep focused on the task at hand and whoever's in the box, you kind of just go after and approach the same way.
You know, you said before, when asked about why the organization, thought you'd be a candidate to throw sidearm, you talked about the organizational need, and then also with you particular fact that you kind of threw 3/4 already, and then that you bounce back quickly from things. What in you, Scott, allows you to bounce back quickly? And clearly my almost 1-year-old daughter, Evie, wants to know as well.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, she's very curious. She's very curious. Yeah. If you see me just randomly waving hi every now and again, that's just me.
She's not at me.
Yeah. She's very big on saying hi. Very big on saying hi. That was her first word.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's fun. It's actually fun when we walk in the we go for walks in the morning. It's like every single person that we pass, she'll say hi to, and it's actually very sweet to see like somebody like just starting their day, like maybe they're like heading their phone or they're like not paying attention at all, and they have this baby say hi to them. It's like, this is like, it's like uplifting for them for their day.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I guess what about you and your your makeup allows you to bounce back quickly? Is that a learned thing? Is that something that's just always been in you? Is that something like you meditate a lot, you're into stoicism, you're just like, this is how I am? What kind of allows you to bounce back quickly, Scott?
I mean, I think it's just kind of, I've been almost a reliever for like my entire pro career. I was a reliever mostly in college. In high school, I started like my last 2 years, but like my first time on varsity, I did relieve ball games. So like, obviously there's an aspect of you have to come into the game like more often, like, it's like less of a routine. You kind of just have to be like best abilities, availability with that. So I think from mostly in college, I think like just having that ability to kind of go 1 or 2 innings and come back, the next day, the day after that, and kind of go out there kind of was like ingrained into me, I guess. So going to the minor leagues as a reliever, you kind of learn that process, what you need to do to take care of your body, and make sure you're ready to go every night. Because, that's how you have success in this game is being able to, go out there and do your job every night and stay consistent. So I think it's definitely a process that I've learned and I'm still learning from a lot of the veteran guys that have been great, as far as like, talking about, hey, maybe conserve your throws today, or, hey, take a little bit more time in the training room, like whatever it may be, like stuff like that. So, and a lot of, every player has their own routine as far as that goes. But I think for relievers, just kind of leaning on a lot of the veteran guys for me has been huge. We had a great veteran group in Chicago, a lot of success in that bullpen, and kind of listening to guys here as far as like how their process goes over the years. But I think for me, just, being able to take care of myself and take care of my arm and make sure I'm mentally locked into every game, because, never know when your number's going to get called. So I think for me, that's kind of my biggest thing that I take pride in, just being available every day and try my best to go out there and have the team know what they're going to get every time I take the ball.
I'm trying to think if it was you on the mound. I think it was in the extra inning game in Seattle, the 0-0 game that you guys ended up losing, where I think you got the first 2 hit, or somebody walked and then you got 2 hitters out, and then Blake came to the mound for the 4th hitter, and it was the catcher, and he flew out to right to end the inning. Was that you on the mound when Raleigh got out to end the inning?
I had so I got the first 2 guys, and then Matt came out for that mound visit before I faced Raleigh. Yeah.
Okay. So right. You got the first 2 guys. Okay. I'm going to tell you what I'm thinking when I see that. And I love Matt Blake. I think he's done a wonderful job, but I'm thinking, dude, he's rolling right now. Why are you coming to the mound right now? Like, leave him alone. Just let him do his thing. And I always think this, and it's funny because us in the booth, we'll talk about that sometimes off air and be like, and David Cohn will talk about it sometimes on air and say, like, there are certain times where you feel in a rhythm and you don't want that sort of staccato to be interrupted, even if it's to give some wisdom or advice or intel on a hitter that maybe wasn't top of mind or you weren't preparing for. how do you, I'm not asking you to throw Matt Blake under the bus, but I'm wondering how, when you feel like, oh, you've gotten like a little bit of a rhythm, you've gotten 2 big outs and you see the pitching coach coming out there, how are you kind of staying in that zone of effectiveness without it breaking as you're having that conversation?
Yeah, I think for me, honestly, like, and that was probably a good time to take a mound visit for me personally, because,
Okay, good.
once you kind of get going, like, not the game speeds up, but you do get in a rhythm, and kind of like sometimes you can kind of just throw and not think about the process. So I think at that point, obviously big moment of the game. I want to make sure we're on the same page with the catchers and everything. And that gives me a chance to breathe. And like I said earlier, just kind of slow down a little bit, reset, regather my thoughts. And now I have, kind of our game plan of like what we want to do to attack the pitcher or to attack the hitter. And I think I ended up getting him out on the first pitch. So
yeah, you did.
It was, yeah, obviously good mound visit there whenever you get the out there. So Matt's been great as far as that goes. And that was really kind of one of my first bigger moments and with the Yankees. And I think he just wanted to make sure that we're on the same page. Me and Trevi are on the same page, and we knew what we were doing to attack this guy. So he's been great so far as talking in between innings, if I'm going back out there, or like after outings, as far as like what works and how to attack these hitters. But I think for me, honestly, like taking those mound visits kind of gives me a chance to slow down, regather my thoughts, and kind of continue on what got me to those first 2 quick outs there.
When you're out in the pen, is because a lot of times we will see, for anybody, not just you, if a fourth hitter in the inning comes to the plate, or if a pinch hitter comes to the plate, we'll see a mound visit where, presumably you're getting a scouting report. When you're leaving the bullpen and Mike Harkey is going over things with you, how many hitters is he kind of preparing you for and giving you intel on? Is it just the amount of hitters that it would take to get out of the inning, or is it beyond that? How does that work, Scott?
I think it's usually like the focus is on the first guy. Definitely, like we want to get the first out of the inning, or if you're coming in with traffic on, we definitely want to be able to attack that guy. So I think that the first couple hitters, I'm really gonna get a good idea. And if you're starting an inning, we'll go over the first 3 hitters that you'll face that inning, and hopefully that's the only 3. But if we do need to make a mound visit, there's a conversation that goes along with that. So Harky's been great. I mean, like I said, like everyone here has been super helpful as far as like get me on the same page with everybody. And I'm a guy that definitely likes to know like what he thinks as far as that goes, and like where do you think I can get this guy, and what do you think I should start him with? So I'm always having those conversations. With him, and he's been great so far as like, hey, you have this to him, and like, this could be a put away pitch, or, whatever the conversation may be. So just kind of having that confidence, knowing like, okay, like, and then you obviously have to react to hitter too. Like, so like, there's definitely times where it's like, hey, he was on that pitch, like maybe let's go to plan B or whatever. So just kind of paying attention to the game. He does such a great job of kind of watching the hitters and learning them throughout the season, throughout the game, and what they're doing. So really just kind of, happy to have those conversations before I go in. It makes me feel, pretty confident in my stuff.
Hark is such a great dude too, isn't he?
Yeah. Yeah. He's awesome. He's the best.
He is. He's just an awesome guy. Well, Scott, we so appreciate the time, man. Excited for you in this opportunity, excited for the success, pumped that your wife is getting to come here, see you in the pinstripes this weekend. Hopefully, I know you're not going to be used on 3 straight days, but hopefully she sees 2 outings of scoreless ball, and hopefully, you guys break out of it. I guess that's the last thing I'd ask, just from a team standpoint right now, Scott. What's the focus? This team obviously has had a ton of success this season, but this is now an extended funk of which you've been just a little part of the last couple weeks. But what's the focus as a group as you guys try and navigate out of what's now a sizable chunk of disappointing baseball, but still a sizable lead in the standings?
Yeah, I think it's that. I think, these guys did such an amazing job, the first half of building this lead for, obviously don't want to say like 4 moments like this, but I think everybody in the clubhouse would, agree that we, would like to play better, but it's part of the season. It's a long season. It's why you play 162. We're getting everybody's best shot every night. And, I think the vibe in the clubhouses were too good to kind of continue down this. So we're just kind of waiting for whatever moment it is to kind of, break out. And I think we'll be completely fine as far as that goes. But everybody's pulling the same direction. Everybody's still showing up to the park every day, ready to win and giving it their best. So I think you just continue to do that. And, at some point, like I said, one big moment or a couple of games we could kind of put together and get back on a roll.
Well, Scott, we look forward to that happening. Thank you so much for the time, man. Congrats on being with the Yankees and kudos to you for totally deviating from what you had done forever and turning it into your ticket to the major leagues. Pretty amazing, man.
Yeah. Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate it.
You got it. See you soon, Scott.